All right. Let me do that. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Vince Shirelli, and I'm a financial advisor and consultant for the Rockford SBDC, Small Business Development Center. And thank you all for coming on. This is going to be part one of a three-part series for QuickBooks Online 101 General Overview webinars. And just a little background on me. I know a couple of you I've worked with through the SBDC, but in case we've never met, I'm an accountant, got my master's in accounting. I had my own accounting firm here in Rockford for quite a few years. Had some other experience as well. And now I have my own consulting company, Shirelli Consulting, and I do consulting for the SBDC as well. And with my accounting background, I've used QuickBooks and other softwares for the past probably 12, 13 years, and started with QuickBooks Desktop, the accountant version, for many years. And then online came out a while ago and started learning that. That's really the way they want you to get their software now, is QuickBooks Online. It's pretty hard to even find QuickBooks Desktop, which is kind of unfortunate because I like that a little better, but that's okay. So I'm still also learning QuickBooks Online through the past few years because they've changed a lot of things, especially for accountants. It's a little different. But what I'm going to do tonight is basically give you an overview of the software. And then part two of this will be basically money in, anything to do with getting money into the software. So invoices, sales, all that stuff. And then part three will be money out. So how do you show money going out of your company? So any expenses and anything like that. So what I'm going to do in the chat here, hopefully this works for you guys. If you want to kind of follow along, there's a link for all of you to test drive this. So it's a sample company that I'll be using to show you guys. So if you click that, I think it might have you prove that you're not a fake person, a robot or whatever. It might ask you a couple questions, but then you'll get in and you'll be able to see. I'll share my screen now. Should be able to see this. Let me see here. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. So if you don't want to play around with it, you can play around with that sample company too after the fact too with that link. So you can have as much fun with that if you want. So what we'll do here is, this is the main screen of QuickBooks Online. So if you also have any questions, if you can just put them in the chat while we're doing this, and then I'll get to them, you know, maybe in the middle. I'll take a few seconds and look at some questions, or then at the end we'll do some more questions. But basically this is the main screen of QuickBooks Online. And if you guys already have this or are somewhat versed in this, sorry if I'm, you know, telling you something you know, but for those of you that might have never seen this, this is the front screen. This is what it will look like when you get into it. Basically on the left-hand side, you have everything pertaining to what you would have to do. So banking, sales, expenses, projects. To be honest, this is a new feature and I've never really used it. It's probably something I should learn even as a consultant, because I think this is how you can manage a lot of projects in here. Payroll, which we really won't get into in any of these series. If we at the SBDC feel like this was successful and you guys want to learn more about payroll, I can touch on that a little bit, but since payroll is so you know, different for everybody, it might be a little difficult to, you know, show that. Let me see. So time is also another feature that's new. This is how you can you know, oh, sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. Well, let me get back in. Okay, there we go. Okay, so time is just another feature for, I believe, if you have other employees. Hopefully QuickBooks doesn't have a problem tonight, because it just kicked me out and now it's saying something's not right. But so there's time and projects are the two new features of this. And then what we'll also touch on tonight is reports. So reports are, the accountant's favorite part of this, which is, profit and loss, balance sheet. And then QuickBooks has so many custom reports, so many that I've never even touched on. They have a lot of different reports that you can play around with on here. So you can kind of customize it to your business. Taxes, if you're doing payroll off of here or sales tax, you would be able to pay your taxes through this tab. Mileage is another just newer feature for you to track your mileage. Accounting, this is going to be where we'll get to chart of accounts here in a little bit. And then my accountant, you can share QuickBooks Online with an accountant if you have one, and they will be able to get into your QuickBooks to do either adjusting journal entries or manage your profit and loss statements and your reports. So if we go back to the dashboard here, one nice thing about this is on the dashboard, you can customize it to show anything you might want to see. So one of my companies that I have, actually, like right here, I've customized it. I don't know if this one has it, no, but you can customize it to kind of show your either weekly, monthly, annual, revenue and expenses could come up right on here. And, I also like to have the bank accounts. Once again, this is a fake company, so none of this is real stuff. But so you can have bank accounts on here, anything to do with reporting. You can show some reports on here right on the dashboard. But what I'm going to start with here is the new button. So the new button, and I still, to be honest, get a little confused with this button and the settings button over here. Sometimes I don't understand why they haven't changed this, but certain things that you would need under the new button, they keep moving under the tools button up here. So we'll start over here though on the new. So this is where anything new that you would want to enter into the software, you would push this button for an easy way to do it. So if you wanted to add, a new invoice, a new estimate, if you're sending an estimate to a client, any new checks, expenses, anything would be done right here as a quick way to do that. There's other features, payroll, like I said, we're not going to get into that. This is the spot I was just saying where under the other section, for some reason, these sometimes get mixed up with the tools over here. But the most important things probably for any of you running a small business is of course going to be the bank deposit or a transfer, possibly journal entries, which we'll get into. So really just those top three, those are probably going to be the most important for a small business. Over here under the gear, this is where the one feature that I wish they had under new was reconcile. It's always hard for people to find that, to reconcile their bank account or credit card every month. So this is an important feature right here to be able to reconcile your banking. But under the gear, this is where all your accounts, manage users, chart of accounts can be found in here, and lists, which we'll really not go into. It probably wouldn't pertain to many of you anyways. But let's just say if we want to go to accountant settings here, here's where you would modify the name of the company. If you want to put your FEIN number in here, legal name, you can say what type of taxable entity you are. If you're LLC, if you're an S Corp, anything in here could change. Your address. I believe if we go back out of here and we go to manage users. So QuickBooks has different account, there's QuickBooks Plus, QuickBooks Advanced, all these different features. Really the difference is all these features on the side. So do you really need, projects or time? Most people don't use them. And a lot of it also pertains to how many users you want. Sometimes QuickBooks wants you to get in with the highest plan, of course, and to, because they want you to have multiple users. If it's really just you and possibly your accountant, I would say you can start with the lowest plan in QuickBooks, because you can also go up and down in plans anytime you like with it, which is nice. So you can always modify your account, but you could add a user here, either an admin or a standard user, and you can tell the software what you want them to be able to see or do. And accounting firms, this is important. So like a lot of my clients, add me as an accounting firm. You would just send your accountant an email, and if they have an email linked to QuickBooks Online, they'll be able to do things in your books. So if we go back to the dashboard here, what I'm going to start with, and basically which would be the first thing that any of you would really do in QuickBooks, is set up your chart of accounts. So how you get to that is one of two ways: the gear up here, chart of accounts, or the new way, which is down here, accounting, chart of accounts. They both go to the same spot. And so this is, as you can see here, you're using 44 of the 250 accounts in your plan. So that's where, the different plans come into, 250 accounts is quite a bit. So, if you needed more, you could upgrade to advanced QuickBooks. But this is how it looks like. So it's going to have all the names of your accounts, the type, detail type would be, like this, inventory asset. The main account is other current assets, then you detail it into inventory. And then this pertains to, reconciling. So here's, QuickBooks is saying they have $1,200 in the bank, but the bank is saying they have negative 3,600. So it probably hasn't been reconciled yet. So any of these accounts, you can view what's going on in the account by clicking View Register. So if we want to look at the bank account, you would click View Register. And basically you get your entire checkbook register right here. So how I like to do, we'll get into this in part 2 and 3 with adding money in and money out. But instead of going to new and adding, a check or sales, sometimes I like to do it directly right in the ledger here in the register. So right on this top left here, you can do really anything by saying I want to add a check, a deposit, a refund, a transfer, or even a journal entry right within the bank register. So if I wanted to add a check, QuickBooks is going to automatically take the number that's next. So 71 must have been skipped for some reason in the sample company. But if we do today's date, your check number, all your payees would come up right here. So we'll just click one here, create the memo, payment, and then click which account you would like it to go to. Okay, and all these accounts are within the chart of accounts we just looked at. So let's say we wanted to create a new account in the chart of accounts that's not in here. So let's say the telephone, I'm assuming they already have a telephone expense in here probably, but let's just create one that says cell phone. What we're going to do is you can actually start typing it in, so it wouldn't find it. It'll tell you it's not in there. But let's just click add cell phone. And this is how you would add an account. So a cell phone expense would be an expense, of course. So here's all your account types. And what we're going to do is find expenses. Now they'll have a detail. So this will be, we could probably put it as a office or general administrative expense or utilities, however you would want to look at it. It has most of the detail that you would need in an account. So we're going to click that. The name is cell phone. You could put a description. A sub account would be, let's say there's 2 phones. So maybe you have a main telephone account, a telephone expense, and you have work cell phone 1 and personal cell phone number 2. You could create a parent account. So if you went in here and they might possibly have a telephone account in here, I'm not sure. But if they don't, that's okay. But oh, here we go. So telephone. So if you can see, utilities is the parent, and it has 2 sub accounts, gas and electric and telephone. If we wanted to make another parent account, we could click telephone. And what this is going to do is going to make, now this, the cell phone is going to be buried under 2 accounts, under utilities, telephone, and then cell phone. So then you would just click, I don't know why I can't see the, there we go, expand my screen here. Save button, and it would save the transaction there. If you want to edit it, you would just click on it and push edit, and you can go right into it and do whatever you want. You could void it, you know, it would come up like this, the check would come up. But like I said, we'll get into that more in detail in the money out part of this next week. So back to chart of accounts. So if we want to go back, we'll click here, back to chart of accounts, or like I said, you can go down here in accounting, chart of accounts. And just one second, let me admit another person popping in. And like we just added an account from the register, but you could also add an account right from here. It would be the exact same process. So unless anybody has any questions right now, I'll keep moving on. Let me just check over here. I don't see anything in the chat, but if anybody has a question, you know, just let me know as I'm going along. So that's the chart of accounts. That's really your most, you know, important part of setting up your QuickBooks. QuickBooks usually has a set number of chart of accounts when you start it. It'll give you like a template. It'll give you probably, you know, checking, savings, AR, accounts receivable. It'll give you the most common ones and probably the most common expenses like this down here: insurance, equipment rental. All of these, as you can see, cost of labor, job materials, these were things that somebody put in. And so, you know, it'll just give you the basics: meals and entertainment, office expenses. So it will give you a set. And I believe if it's still the same, I just created one for a company 2 weeks ago. It actually will ask you what type of area or industry you're in. And because, like, if you're in retail, your chart of accounts would be a little different than if you were, you know, more of a service type. So it might give you different charts of accounts to start with based on whatever industry you're in. So that's kind of nice. And so we got a couple questions here. Will you cover linking QuickBooks to your bank online? Yep, I'm going to talk about that. Was next. And then could you elaborate on types of chart of accounts a bit more, COGS? Sure. So the types of, so the big types of charts of accounts are, of course, going to be, well, first of all, there's 3 categories in accounting: assets, liabilities, and equity. So under assets, the big ones. So if I go, let's do a new account here. So the assets are going to be cash on hand, which would be, you know, petty cash, any cash you just have laying around. Checking, of course, like a bank account, money market account, any types of assets there would be, you know, under the, or these would be the assets that you would have. So if you want to have cash on hand, for instance, you know, you could call it just petty cash. Okay. Now, if I get out of here again, you know, you're asking COGS. So cost of goods sold, I don't believe is in this example because this looks like more of a service entity. So cost of goods sold, if you're a consultant, more of a service company, you really wouldn't have any cost of goods sold. And I guarantee this sample company has none because it looks like it's a lawn care company. Cost of goods sold would only be pertaining to if you're reselling something. So more for retail, you know, restaurants, if you're buying something to then resell would be cost of goods sold. If you're a consultant or, you know, IT world or anything like that, where most of it's service provided, and you're buying supplies, people get confused on this sometimes. You know, the supplies I'm buying, are they cost of goods sold purchases or are they just supplies? It actually would just be under expenses here, and it would just be, there's probably a supplies account in here. So yeah, it would just be supplies. It would not be cost of goods sold. Expenses are going to be really anything. So the difference between cost of goods sold and expenses, again, are cost of goods sold are things you're buying to resell. So like this company, I just saw it when I was scrolling fast. It does have a cost of goods sold line, but I doubt this was ever even really used in a lawn care business. They're probably not reselling anything unless they're buying for a customer. Let's say like in lawn care, you would buy seed, grass seed, to then sell it to your customer for them to use, then that would be cost of goods sold. But if you're buying grass seed to lay it for them as part of your service, then it would just be under supplies, not cost of goods sold. So hopefully that answers your questions. And then there's income, of course, which is up here. Income would be, any revenue you're taking in, primary income, other income. QuickBooks gives you the option to list that. So like if we go, I don't know why it's only letting me do assets right now. It's not letting me add any expenses. Well, let me do it this way. There's more than one way of doing things in QuickBooks. So if I go here, add a check, account, and add one here. This is where, oh, see, it's stuck. Something's going on with QuickBooks tonight, guys. I don't know why. It's only allowing me to have a few accounts to add. So I'm not sure why that's happening. But next week when I do this too, I'll be adding more income accounts when we do sales. So to somebody else's question about linking QuickBooks to your bank online, that's a very handy feature. And it's one of my favorites that it does. So banking, you're gonna click right here and go to banking. I won't be able to link an account right now, of course, but I can show you, how it works. So this is the home page of the banking. And so what's going to happen here is this company has two bank accounts linked. They have a checking account and a savings account. And so what it's going to tell you is, like this says example Bank USA, it would tell you who the bank is up here if you kind of hovered over that little icon. And then on the edit, this is how you could edit your sign in and account info if it's already in QuickBooks for you. So if you wanted to add a new account, all you would do is click link account, or if you don't want to link the account, but you want to upload a QuickBooks file into QuickBooks from your bank. So a lot of banks allow that. If you go to download, it'll have an option, download PDF for your statements. It might have download QBO or QBX. I believe this uses .QBO. You would upload that file into here and it would basically do the same thing. It just takes a little longer because you're having to physically do it. This one usually has, an update button here. So you could update whenever you come in here and it'll update to your bank pretty fast. So what's nice about this feature is instead of having to hard key everything in all the time from all your accounts. So currently we're in the checking. So let's assume this is your checking account. If we scroll down here, you'll see for review, categorized, or excluded. Since everything right now is under for review, what's happening is this is pulling all the transactions from the checking account. So if we go categorize this by date, so it's going to be the oldest one comes up. It's pulling a transaction from 2/21. It's thinking it's something called Books by Bessie. It doesn't know where to categorize it. And basically that's it. So the bank detail here, sometimes your bank will actually say where something's coming from. So this is matching already. It caught that and it's matching its Books by Bessie. If it didn't catch it, it would come up like this. So like this transaction, you can see it's blank right here. And so it didn't match a vendor to that account yet. But let's say we want to add this. Instead of entering everything in, going to the register and doing it by hand, what we would do is, find a match. It currently has no matches. I'll show you something that has a match. It would actually just come up like this, green with a match. So this one's not finding a match, so we need to add it. What's nice is it's already found the vendor. I'm not sure what this vendor does, this fake vendor, but we'll just pick something. Okay, we'll just say it's insurance. Okay, you would click whatever that expense is. Since it's an expense, it probably doesn't pertain to a customer. We would leave it blank. But let's say this was a job material. Let's say this was plants and soil. You could actually put the customer or the project that you're doing to allocate that expense just to that project. So let's just say this guy was buying materials for a job he's doing for Amy's Bird Sanctuary. You could actually put that here. And what that's going to do is just itemize this even deeper so that when we go into the reports, you could actually do profit and loss statements based on customers or certain projects, which is really nice. And what's also nice is it gives you a billable feature. So what you could do is, let's say you bought job materials for Amy's bird sanctuary and you wanted to bill them back to pay you back for this $55. What you could do is make this billable. And what it's going to do is it's going to go into a holding account for a while until, and we'll talk about this in the coming weeks, but what'll happen is it'll go into where your invoices are, and you'll be able to click which things are outstanding for billable, and you can just add these quickly into an invoice for someone. So that's a nice little feature with this. So if we wanted to then add this, it's been categorized. You got the vendor, you got the category. There's really nothing else you got to do. You push add, and now that's been just added right into the register, the checking register. Once you've been using this for a while, it starts creating rules for you. So you can see here, there's a tab called rules. You can add new rules. So if you go to Beefaroo a lot and instead of every time Beefaroo coming up here and asking you what should Beefaroo do, you can say Beefaroo should be for dining or meals and entertainment. And every time what's going to happen is it's going to come up with a match. And it's going to say, we think this expense should go to this rule. And it'll ask you, you know, you can, even though it found a match, doesn't mean you can have to use that. You could categorize it again and you can choose something if it's different. But that's a nice thing where it makes things a lot faster. So then you can just push match and it's automatically going to match it to a, you know, what it thinks it is based on a rule. It'll also match things from bills. So if you put a bill in here, it'll find the bill and you can match it, which is nice. So this is actually income, or this is, sorry, this is backwards. This one's income. So this one, he got a deposit in for $337 and it's matching it to a sales receipt that he did. So on the sales receipt, it's finding, basically it's matching it off the number. So it's finding that this amount of money has been deposited into the bank. So we're going to match it. So a very nice feature with this that we'll go more into once we start talking about money in and money out. But this is a general overview of how you would add something. You would go link account. It's going to come up with every bank in the world. So if you want to discover, man, QuickBooks is not working right tonight. Let's try it again. Well, I guess not. But what would happen is on that list, it'll come up with Capital One, you know, PNC, any bank or credit card you can think of, or savings accounts, everything. And if, as long as that company allows it, you would be able to link it to QuickBooks. So I got one more question here. I have several recurring. This sounds like I wouldn't need to set recurring to setup. Probably not. Yeah, if like I said with that, like a Beefaroo example, you know, if you link your bank account and you tell it a rule, you know, so I'll go into, instead of doing a recurring setup, which I remember that from QuickBooks when I used to use the desktop, you could say, you know, apply this to money out or money in, and basically create a, you know, a condition. It's going to go to this expense category. If the payee is this, you know, if it's Cigna Healthcare, it's going to go to insurance, and it basically would just do it all itself. And another thing, you can always just type things in here and it'll find it. So, you know, if we want to do insurance or Cigna, let's say, apply this to money out, to all bank accounts that might be linked. You know, it's going to be an expense for insurance whenever it comes up, Cigna. Save, and now you have a rule. I don't know what's right, probably a condition here, but we'll go over that more. So description, you know, we're probably going to have to do Cigna Healthcare. So if the description has anything that says Cigna Healthcare and the payee is Cigna Healthcare, it will go to this category as a rule. I don't know why it's not doing it, but so that's the banking side. Now, I'm just going to show you something I'm a big fan of using journal entries in QuickBooks. If you're not familiar to accounting, that's okay. But journal entries are nice, little features that you can use to, adjust things within the software. It's something, the people that love QuickBooks love this feature, and, staunch, accountants that sometimes don't like this feature because it's a little too easy to manipulate things in QuickBooks. But since QuickBooks really is meant for small businesses, it's nice to do this. But a lot of accounting firms and CPAs don't like this feature because you can change things too easily. But if we go to new here and we go to journal entry, I use this a lot for cash things. So if somebody, at the end of the year gives me all these receipts that they had for cash, instead of manually entering everything, sometimes it's easier to do a journal entry. So a journal entry basically is manually entering the debits and credits. So let's say we wanted to do a journal entry for the end of the month for tomorrow, and we're gonna, name it 4/30/21 journal entry. And let's say you had all these cash receipts for going out to eat, okay? And it was all to one place, let's just say. What we would do is a debit in accounting basically makes an expense larger, or your cash or an asset account larger. A credit makes income larger and would make assets go down. So what that's just a quick, it's deeper than that, but I don't need to get into the lingo for you guys. So if I just do meals and entertainment, okay, let's say you spent $500 going out to eat, and we're gonna put a name to this. So you can put customers in here or vendors. So let's say this place is a dining place, okay? And this was April receipts for dining. What we're going to do now is we're going to lower cash. I don't know if they have them, but this is a good example then. So they only have checking and savings as banks. But let's say this is cash. What we're going to do is we're going to go to add new, cash on hand. We're going to call this petty cash. We're going to save, and now you have a new account, cash on hand, and credits it. It'll automatically match it to make it balance, and that's it. Now you've done a journal entry. So if I save this, get out of here, and go back to chart of accounts. Now we can see cash on hand appeared. It's a bank, it's an asset, it's cash on hand. And QuickBooks balance is negative $500, which is correct because we just put that in there. If we view the register, it'll come up as a journal entry. So you'll see it says journal, and this was a manual entry that we just did to say we spent $500. So I think, another thing would be depreciation. You could use this for depreciation is what a lot of people use journal entries for at the end of the year. If you're not familiar with that, leave it up to your accountant, but that's what journal entries would be for. Now, the last part of this is the reports. So if we go to reports, there's going to be your favorites at the top. And usually the favorites are going to be the general ones, the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, maybe a cash flow statement if you want it. This company's got the AR, accounts receivable, aging. So if we click on profit and loss, because that's what most people are going to use, it'll automatically develop a profit and loss statement for you for whatever time period you want it for. So let's say we just want this month. Okay. So we're going to change it to this month. It'll automatically change the dates. If you want this month to date, it would cut out tomorrow. But we're going to do this month. We're going to do total only. And what's also nice is you can compare it to another period. So let's say we want to compare it to the previous year, and we want to also show a percent change that it changed. And we can do that. And we're going to, there's cash or accrual method. Most of you probably would use cash if you're a small business, but we'll keep it at accrual right now. We're going to run the report. And what you'll see is it runs it. Unfortunately, there's no data in here for last year, 2020, but what you would see here is numbers here and the percent that it changed from last year to this year. So here we have the P&L, we got income, we got gross profit, and we have all the expenses down below, and it all leads down to net income. If any of this, if you're looking at it and you don't understand what something is, you can click on it. So let's see what job expenses are, and it will come up with a transaction report, and it'll show you what it's pulling for this transaction. So it's from 4.2, it's an expense to this nursery for job expenses. If you even want to go deeper into it, you can click it again. And you can actually see the expense that was entered, where you can also then modify it. And oh, bless you. And so you could modify this if you wanted to. You could change the payment date if it's different. You can change the amount. You can split it. We'll talk about splits next week, where you can actually say the $46.98 really wasn't just towards one thing. I actually also bought, fuel, and you could split this amount into what other category it should have been into. But if it all looks good, you can get out of there. And we can go back here, back to the report. And that's really the P&L. There's a lot of other things you can do in here. You could do it there's a classing feature in here. You could do it by vendors. You can really modify it however you want. If you like how you've customized something, you can save the customization and it'll save this form that you like. Also up here, print, of course, email it, but this can do it to Excel and PDF, which is really nice. I use this all the time to Excel, so you could modify it or do budgets for next year from this, so you can export it to Excel, modify it for the next year. And so we'll go back to the report list. So there are tons of reports on here. Like I said at the beginning, many that I've never even used. They split them into different categories. So business overview, this is going to be, balance sheet and profit and loss, and some other ones. Then they're going to get down to who owes you. So this is going to be all accounts receivable. So accounts receivable, aging is an important one. They have it highlighted. If you didn't want it as a favorite, you can unclick it. Click this one if you want. So if we go to aging, what this is going to do is give you an aging report as of today. You could change that, of course, just like any report. You can show the different periods. So right now we're doing by 30 days. So this shows all the money that would be owed. So John owes $450. If you want, again, just like any report on here, to drill down into the detail, you could click this. It would show you what the $400.50 was. This is an interesting example, actually, because it's within 30 days past due. But as you can see, the actual original invoice here was for $750, but there's open balance of $450. So this person paid $300 already. So if we go back, so any of these can be clicked on. Anything on here can be clicked on, even like the sums. If you click the sums, it'll, then bring everything that's summing up to that $3,700, all these invoices. Go back here. Go back down. Sales and customers, like I said, there's so many of these that I've never even played around with. Some of them have never really pertained to my businesses or my clients, but some of them very, might pertain to you guys, whatever businesses you are. You can do things by customer, income by customer, to see which customers are your most, valuable that you have. There's inventory. Let's go down here. What you owe now, this is a very important one for if you have any 1099 independent contractors. So at the end of the year, as long as you set this up correctly to, show that $600, what'll happen is anybody over, it'll show you contractors that you've paid to say, do I need to pay this person? This isn't really set up, it doesn't look like. So the only person they've paid that QuickBooks thinks needs a 1099 is this insurance company, but in real life, you wouldn't have to owe them anything, a 1099, because it's under $600. But so you have a 1099 contractor list. Let's go back down here. Accounts payable. This would be bills that you owe. So if you use QuickBooks to manage your bills, it'll have all your bills in here and tell you for past due. And we'll get into that in coming weeks about how to then pay bills and everything out of here. But okay, so what are the most important, most used reports? So the most used in the accounting world are going to be profit and loss, of course, balance sheet. That's why these were favorites. Cash flow. I believe they have a cash flow statement on here. I can show you guys. Yeah, statement of cash flows. That's something the banks like to see, and also for planning your own business. Basically, it's showing you all your operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. So what this is going to show is operating activities are going to show money coming in and out through operations. So, this has net income, AR, AP. Investing is going to be in things you're buying, for as a CapEx, capital purchase for your business. In this case, this person bought a truck. So it shows, they spent 13 grand on a truck. And financing activities would be if you got a loan, any payables you might have in the company, which drills it all the way down to a cash number, which is, I'm sure many of you have heard cash is king. So really, the net income of this company for January through April is $1,400, but their cash flow actually was $3,900. And part of that's because of financing and investing. So, they started with 47, now they got 3,900 at the end. So, I mean, in my eyes as an accountant, people say cash is king, but actually cash flow, in my opinion, is king. Businesses run on cash flow. So that's always an important thing to remember in my eyes. But really, I would say for small businesses, profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow, the top three. Then after that, probably aging, accounts receivable, and accounts payable, to tell you who owes you money and who do you owe money to. So really, that's all I had for tonight for the big overview. I know that's a lot, but and now if anybody has any other questions, please let me know. We got about 15 minutes left. So if there's any other questions, please chime in, put it in the chat and let me know. Next week, I believe, is going to be money in. So I'll be talking about basically this button right here, sales and invoices. So we're going to go over how do you put money into QuickBooks. And then the third week is going to be money out, which is going to be this tab, expenses. It's going to be how do you show any money coming out of your bank accounts. So I hope this is helpful. Once again, I gave you the link in the chat to this demo. You can play around with this as much as you want. They're actually giving you a 50% off up here, which is nice. So if you guys did want to get this, you might want to act on that. Like I said, there's different plans. If I click this, I can show you here. So, the cheapest usually is 25. So they get you with, with showing you the discount there. But usually this is the simplest. What it's not going to give you is multiple users and the ability to manage and pay your bills in here, which a lot of clients, in all honesty, that I've used, help my businesses myself. I've never used QuickBooks to really manage my bills. I only use it as my software to organize, for my financials, which possibly many of you might use. But, I think the most popular are going to be these two. The Plus is going to start getting into inventory. In all honesty, in the 12, 13 years I've used this, I've never used QuickBooks to track inventory. Most people will use a separate, spreadsheet or something for inventory. So to be honest, I'm not even well versed in the inventory. And then this one for, $150 a month, it's just giving you a ton of users and all these other insights, which in all honesty, I don't know really what they're worth, but I would say probably the first two plans. But let's say you want to start with the plus, and then you're like, this is too much. I don't even need this. You can always go backwards or go up a plan, and you're not going to lose anything, which is nice in this. So, any other questions from anybody? If not, that's all I had for tonight. And yeah, Paula, I'm actually self-taught myself too. So I taught myself a long time ago, and I'm still learning. Like I said, they change this all the time. So do all plans allow accountants to view? I believe so. So I believe an account. So I have an accountant version of this. I've never had an issue with anybody, and I have people that use the most simple plan all the way on up to the plus plan, and I've never had an issue with not being able to see something. So I believe any accounting firm would be able to see your books in any plan, to my understanding. So, well, if there's not any other questions, I appreciate you guys coming on. Make sure to register for next week and the week after. And I appreciate all your time, and hopefully you guys learned something, and hopefully I can teach you some more in the coming weeks. So once again, thank you guys. And if you need anything through the SBDC, of course, there's myself on the financial side, can help you with, LLC setup, give you advice on that. And financial planning, 3-year projections if you're trying to get a loan. Then we have Edward, who's our director. We have Heather Kelly, who's new to the team with myself, who can help you with marketing, social media, website design. And then we have Mike Mastriani, who can help you with any HR related things and, business planning in general too. So once again, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Have a good night.